Hello everyone, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome to a sort of update video of sorts regarding the current state, news and drama surrounding Injustice 3, or at least a supposed Injustice 3 right now. You see, over the last 24 to 48 hours, there's been quite a lot of drama surrounding what exactly is going on with this supposed sequel, and whether or not it's actually happening. So, potential spoilers ahead, I guess? But this is pretty big news that I feel like we should actually talk about, because there's been a lot of issues here, and actually a lot of skepticism. So let's break it down from the very start, and kind of see how it's all built up to this. Now of course, as we all do know, a little bit earlier on this year, despite the fact that historically we have been told by Netherrealm and Ed Boon that MK1 was supposed to have the longest support of any of their prior games, its support was seemingly cut short due to the supposed poor sales and reception of Chaos Reigns. Thus, because of this, it does seem like Netherrealm were pushed forward for their next big project. As for what it could be, that's kind of been the big question and mystery right now, as Mortal Kombat 11 and 1 were the first Netherrealm Mortal Kombats released back to back, as historically they have bounced between that and the Injustice series. And with the lukewarm reception of Mortal Kombat 1, naturally on the cycle, we have assumed that Injustice was going to be the next natural step, which in many ways makes a lot of sense here, especially with DC's most recent brand relaunch under that of James Gunn. And I do believe we've had some sort of confirmation over the last 48 hours that strongly indicates this, but it shouldn't be something locked in stone. Why do I say that? Well, recently, the voice of Superman, George Newbern, did a panel meeting and signing, which did more or less confirm Injustice 3, with said signing and photo being tweeted online, saying the following: "Yesterday, I finally met my favorite voice for Superman, George Newbern. I was telling him he's definitive as the voice for me, and how much I love the game Multiverses. In response to my Multiverses comment, he told me he's currently working on Injustice 3. Now, whilst this has been the initial tweet that has blown up the most, this hasn't been the only instance where one of the voice actors from the Injustice series has confirmed a third installment, as voice actor of Jon Stewart, Paul Lamar, also had a separate signing of his own, which more or less did confirm these finer details, with a tweet of said signing saying the following. So first, I asked him what it was like working with Kevin Conroy, and he said he really didn't work with him too much, considering that voice acting is mostly done separate from other actors. Then he talked about the Jon Stewart skin that was placed over Hal Jordan's skin in Injustice 2 as DLC. Then he signed my steelbook, and I told him he's my definitive voice for Jon Stewart. He hands me my steelbook and says, 'You know they're making another one. They're doing Injustice 3, and my heart started racing.' So this does more or less confirm an Injustice 3, right? Well, kind of. It's good to go into this quite skeptical, because you gotta keep in mind that this is the equivalent of, I know someone online who went to a panel and talked to a voice actor who then confirmed him a thing that is yet to be confirmed. It's like you saying you have an uncle that has a friend somewhere that knows of this. It is straight up hearsay, so unless we have an actual recording of it or a tweet from them directly, then it's kind of impossible to know how true this is. But even with that said, and I'm not trying to dismiss their comments, this wouldn't actually be the only instance in Netherrealm's history where a voice actor has teased a character that never quite came to fruition. Because you gotta remember that not too long ago, prior to Mortal Kombat 1's stop in development, Mila Lee, voice actor of Jade, did of course make some comments kind of hinting that she would return as the character as part of a DLC pack. A DLC pack that, well, never quite came to be. Whilst not transparent and clear, she absolutely said enough that it gave us enough of an impression that another combat pack may be looming on the horizon. But I will say that the difference between that situation and this one is that we know that Netherrealm are 100% working on their next title here. Whereas for MK1, we already had assumed that it finished its annual cycle, as we did get 2 big DLC packs and a story expansion. So any news about future DLC after Chaos Reigns was quite slim. So whilst there is some similarities here, I do think that overall they are 2 different situations. And I think what also hasn't really helped, as there has been a bit of a Streisand effect in the last 24 hours. As Brendan Burrow, who did make his tweet, has backpedaled on his tweets recently, as he didn't quite expect his tweets nor comments to blow up. And I know some people have actually reached out, and believe like Warner Brothers to have been at his front door of this situation, which is a perfect representation. But I don't think that's necessarily the case with the backpedaling, because typically when it comes to voice actors, they all sign NDAs. It's a strict lock and key type of situation. And when you tweet something like that by your supposed favorite Superman voice actor, you understandably put them in some pretty hot water, especially if it blows up. So no, I don't think Warner Brothers execs are at his door knocking it down, but instead I think this is actually quite an awful situation, where a fan has clearly involuntarily gotten one of their favorite voice actors in trouble by revealing news that they definitely shouldn't have said online. So what exactly does this now mean for Injustice 3? Well, I'm pretty sure this more or less does confirm what's coming next for us, as we already knew the cards and options we had on the table, with tweets like this more or less kind of confirming what we had already suspected. Whilst I wouldn't say it's 1,000,000% locked in stone, nor should these tweets be deemed as official confirmation, I'm like 85% sure that Injustice 3 is probably around the corner. As for when this could come out, I have absolutely no idea currently, because with the extended developmental cycle of MK1, it really could be quite a while before we get the next big game. Because if I'm being realistic with relative time and scale, big official news for the next NRS game should happen at this year's Game Awards. And if not, then we know it will more than likely be pushed back to that of 2027, or at worst, 28, which in turn could mean both some good and some pretty bad news. As I feel it's relatively safe to assume that MK1 was definitely affected by the pandemic. But if that wasn't actually a factor here, and the studio just instead opted for a 4-year developmental cycle, then that probably means we'll be getting a new NRS game every 4 years. We are truly in the dark ages now. So with that said and everything covered here, what are your current thoughts on the whole Injustice 3 situation right now? Do you think that this more or less 100% confirms it? Or do you feel like this simply strengthens one of our options on the table here, as an Injustice cross MK game is always a possibility? Please do comment down below, because I myself look at this and do more or less see this as confirmation at this point, especially with Netherrealm's radio silence. So it's quite funny that the most we learn from this is from voice actors themselves. So yeah, again, please do comment down below, as I really want to kind of hear your thoughts and feelings on this topic currently. And of course, we'll keep you all up to date as things do progress and go on. But until the next one everyone, that's been it for me. So as always, take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.